Hi everyone, I'm Kath, and today I'll be opening bag number 13 because it's December the 13th. Inside it there is brown, pink, blue and white wool, and what you're going to be making is a nice mug of hot chocolate. You'll also need some of the bits from your happiness bag, maybe the sprinkles. I didn't use sprinkles because I have problems with my sight, so I made marshmallows, as you can see. One tip, when you come to do the handles, if you wet your hands slightly, not very much, as you're rolling the wool, it helps to begin with, and then you can felt it firmer, but it just helps to get it going. The same with the cream on the top. The marshmallows I made in the same way, but with pink wool, and then I just cut them into shapes and popped them on. It was a nice make. I enjoyed making that. So good luck with it, and Merry Christmas to everybody, and I hope you enjoy making your makes. Bye.
Hello, I'm Fiona, and today is the 14th of December, so we're opening packet 14 in the Advent kit. And on page 37 of the brochure, you will see that we're going to be making this cute little felt apple, which can be hung on your Christmas tree. So in the bag, we have a Christmas card, and also a small amount of brown wool, scarlet wool, lemon and lime green wool, light green wool, and a little felt ball. So, as Vicky had previously said in her video, you will find it easier if you just use thin pieces of wool to cover your ball, and then you get a nice even coverage. So, cover the ball completely in the red wool, and then take a small piece of the lemon and lime green wool and cover maybe half, 3/4 of the apple to give it some shading. And then take some of the brown wool, just a small amount. I rolled it round a cocktail stick, then pulled it off, and then got some hair wax and rolled it in my fingers, and that stiffened the stalk. Then I made a hole with my pokey tool and then felted the stalk in. And then there's some light green wool, just took a very small piece of that and made a leaf. But I would think if you had some felt, you could just cut a leaf shape and stab the leaf shape in. And I also put a little bit of brown wool in the bottom, just for some detail on the underside of the leaf. So then this one, I've threaded a piece of embroidery thread through, so it's now ready to be hung on the Christmas tree. Enjoy the project.
Hello and welcome to day 15 of the Advent reveal. And I'm Stephanie, in case you don't know, and today's little project is our little owl. I'll put him over here and hold him. I have to say that I absolutely adore owls, so this was one of my little favourites to do, and I just want to show you a couple of things before we go over to the overhead, and I'll give you some tips on completing a little chap or chapess, whichever way you've decided to do yours. So just to say, obviously sitting on a little branch and actually got a little hat on, but the way that this is designed is you can actually take him off his little branch. And I have only just pinned my hat on, and you can felt him on quite lightly or pin yours on, so that you could actually have an any time of year owl. And obviously, if you wanted to mount him on something different rather than the branch, then you could do. I actually quite like the branch, and I'm going to pop him back in there because that just means that with his tail, he is actually self-supporting, as in sitting down, so he can actually like sit on a little, get your hands out of the way, Steph, sit on a little mantle shelf by himself, with or without his little Christmas hat on. So let's pop the little pins down again. As I say, I deliberately kept just pins in so that I can actually show you that he's very adaptable to all seasons, which is lovely. So yeah, what I'll do now is I'll go over to the overhead so that we can see all the different stages, because you can say there's 3 distinct stages. We're going to make the branch, going to make the body, and then going to make the hat. Okay, so let's go to the overhead. Okay, so here we are on the overhead camera. I was just going to point out, if you look up to me here on the right top of the screen, is you may have noticed that my little circles of lights are gradually filling up with all the little mini projects. I absolutely love those projects, they're so cute. Anyway, back to the project in hand. Okay, so once you've opened your envelope, you will have pipe cleaners, you will have the white wool that we're using as core wool. You've got your bear, the brown, which is for our branch, and then we've got the fabulous different blues for the body, bubblegum and teal, and the greens for the nose and the talons, and the red obviously for the hat. And we need to save a little bit of the white for the rim of the hat, and for the little bits of snow on the branch, if that's what you're going to do. So that's the best thing to sort of decide. As I said, we've got our branch that we can take off, but obviously his little talons come off as well when you take the branch off, so just be aware of that. And whether you're going to go, full winter with the snow, or whether you're just going to keep it so that, well, I mean, you can obviously make another one for a different season, with autumn leaves and things like that, or you could just keep it brown so that it becomes good for all seasons. Completely up to you. And as with all the projects, completely adaptable to your own liking, as it were. So yeah, the nice thing is that he stands up by himself, which I quite like about my projects that I make, because I like them to be self-supporting, so that you don't always have to sort of put them up. Different with the Christmas tree decorations, because obviously we like to hang them and everything, but just my propensity for my normal projects. Anyway, so let's get on. I want to take you through the different stages, because I know once again we have some people who are new to Crafty Kit, we have some people who are new to needle felting, and so I just want to take us through some basic parts of the stages so you know where to get going for the shapes and things. And in this case, because we've got a pipe cleaner to actually produce that little branch, you may not be familiar with the getting started. Let me pop you over there. Okay, right, so we've got 2 pipe cleaners, and you can see there, yeah, in diagram 1A. I'm going to move me fluff out of the way a sec so I can bring that in a minute. Okay, so you can see in this diagram, is the idea is that the top one, you've bent it in half, you've twisted it up that central bit by itself, and then you've joined it onto the other one by twisting them together, and then deciding to do whatever you want. So these bits sticking out here are kind of this bit, and I've doubled back for the end. But you can do whatever shape you want, you may not want those bits, you may want more bits sticking up, and that's where just go for it, go mad or go simple, whichever. So let's start off with that central bit. Fold the pipe cleaner in half. I will get my little ruler, because it's 5 centimeters that we're going to do the stalk, and this is the bit which is going to go up inside the owl. to keep him on his branch. Okay, so my 5 centimeters is there, so I'm just going to twist that bit together so that it's nice and strong, and that will make it easier for pushing past all the wool inside our little owl. Right, and then we bend them out like that. Okay, and we take our other pipe cleaner, and if you want to make sure you do it absolutely in the center, just bend it in half to find out where the central bit is. Of course, you might want to have it longer one way than the other, and then you wouldn't want that. But okay, so we're just going to put that central bit there, and I am going to do it in a similar fashion to how I've done it here. So I'm just going to pop that bit up in there, and then I'm going to just bend that bit up there, because I'm going to make those as a bit of a branch sticking off. And then I'm going to just twist those together, okay, up until I get to that bendy bit. As you can see, it doesn't have to be tidy or done in any particular way. It's just to get that as strong as we can, because obviously this is where the piece is going to be sitting mounted on it. So it's nice that, that's why having it twisted together is a good thing. I'm going to do the same up to that bit there. Okay, so twist away. And the twisting is you're equally twisting them together. You're not twisting one round the other, okay, because that makes for a stronger twist, as it were. Okay, get to that bit there, bring you round to the top. So I've got those two bits, at least vaguely at the top. Now these two final bits, as you can see, I've bent them back on each other, and the only reason I've done that is I bent it back so that I can twist that again, and then that end bit is as strong as it needs to be. And then you have the basis of your branch. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. If not, you can rewind this and even slow it down, I think, so that you can watch it slower. Okay, so now we are going to wrap it in the brown wool, but we're only going to wrap to start with the bottom bit, and then we'll add some wrappings around this bit as well. But as I say, you can have that bit hanging down the bottom if you like. You don't have to have it up there. Completely up to you. Right. Okay, so let's grab ourselves some brown wool and start by just taking off a thinnish piece, but it's still fairly, you know, we don't want it thin because we're actually going to build up a branch. So, you know, if it is bulky, if you've got bits sticking out of it, all good, because, you know, a branch is incredibly uneven anyway. So we're not going to worry about that. Okay. Okay. And we need to keep it as ribbon-like as we can, rather than bunching it up together, because we want to, as you will see, if I take it to the central bit, yeah, and we always, when we wrap, we go under and over. So we have it over the back, under and over. Okay, so here you can see there, by doing that, I've got that nice ribbon effect, which means I can overlap really easy, get myself to this bit, and then I just go over the other side. Okay, okay, and then and the nice thing about having the pipe cleaner is the felt loves to stick to a pipe cleaner. Okay, and then I always come back slightly, because that helps with the keeping it nice and neat at the end, because what you don't want is to have the pipe cleaner sticking out at the end. And as I say, let me get my mat over, it doesn't matter whether it's neat or not neat. Once again, I never come on completely prepared with my needles, which seems kind of crazy really, because I'm coming on to do needle felting. Okay, there they are. Brilliant. Okay, so let me just grab a needle and just say, I would just, you know, as I've brought that back over, I just give it a really light. Now, obviously, be careful of your pipe cleaner in the centre, and you just kind of go round the edge, and then where I've actually got a nice end, I'm just going to bring that back round, stretch it even round this bit here, and do a couple of light actions of felting it in, and it's not coming undone. Okay, so then I can concentrate on the other side, and I'm going to turn it round so that I'm doing the under over. Now, if I think I'm doing this in a right-handed way, aren't I, because I'm holding it and wrapping it. If you're left-handed, okay, so you'll be the other way around. I've got it for the left-handed people. I've got, so you'll be doing over the top and then bringing it under and over and doing it that way. Yeah, okay. I mean, I can do it both ways. Sometimes, even if you're left or right-handed, you end up doing it what appears to be the wrong way. But there's no such thing as the wrong way, whichever way you want to do it. Okay, let's get it to the end. There we go. I'm just going to try and stretch it a little bit so that it's not too bulky when I go back down, back down to where this bit joins. Okay, and once again, a light felting action into the edge. So the pipe cleaner really does want to grab hold of the wool in a way, so that makes it nice and easy to do that. And wrap it around some more. And just felt that end in. Okay, now that's done a nice, you know, light felting. If I show you this one, I'll just pop him off. You can see I've actually done this a bit thicker. So I've actually gone and taken another piece, and because you've got plenty here, I've gone back and done another little bit. Okay, and also I've done these little bits, which I've done thinner, and then I've bent them a little bit. So when you want to do it thinner, so you can just pull off a much thinner piece. That's probably far too much, so I just start by holding it down the bottom, but actually wrap it round once, you know, and then go. And if you're worried about that coming undone while you're doing it, then just felt that end in before you go. Okay, and then once again it's the over the back and under to the edge and back down again. Back down we go. So you can see how I'm not minding about how neat it is, because if you end up with a scrawly bit or a bulbous bit sticking out, then that's all more the better for a twig and a branch that he's sitting on. So you might want to bend it or do whatever you want to with it. Okay, so you can felt up and down the whole branch if you want to, depending on how concerned you might be that it might unravel, or whether you're happy that you've wrapped it tight. But that's basically wrapping in the non-musical wrap way, because that one I certainly won't partake in, because I'm not any good, not because it's not a good form of music, but because I'm not any good at it. Okay, so there you go. That just shows you the basics for that. In terms of putting your wool on, it really is just grabbing yourself some white wool, bulking it up and putting it on. Let me just mention our little feet, the little talons, because you've got two ways that you can do that. You can either just put on the, and I've put mine either side of here because he's going to sit on that central bit and then his little feet are going to be on the side of it. So you can either just roll together a nice little sort of oblongy shape and felt that on, and then just create indents for the talons individually. Or my preferred option, and if obviously you don't have to go this way, this is just the way that I like doing it, because I like to lay them down as individual. I just find it in my world just a little bit easier to do, is to make individual little sausages, which you could just roll in your fingers and do, but I quite like to do, if you've followed a couple of the other ones, I've mentioned this about wrapping round the needle. Okay, and so, and in the actual fact, because I go down and then I always go back, this obviously does more than one because there's no talons which are going to be that long. Okay, so that's just wrapped up and down. Just roll it in my hand. There we go. It just felts it together a little bit, and then I just do a little, because I will cut these to shape, and that would probably give me 3 actually. So you just do a little bit of felting, not too much. Make sure I lift it up. As you can see, I've actually done a bit of felting into this mat, so I lift that up. You see I've got my extra gauze underneath here, just so that, and you can see actually I've done quite a bit, because this piece of felt is now getting quite attached to that, but it's not getting attached to my mat. Okay, oh, got attached to my piece of twig. Okay, and then you can just snip and then turn them into your 3 little talons that way. I'm felting it on here rather than on the branch, just to show you, because then you can felt them next to each other, because whilst you're going down the sides there, you know, which is basically you're going down the gaps, felting down the edge, felting down the gaps, because you're actually going down the sides of each piece rather than in the centre, because you felt it in the centre, you're going to squish it. So I'm all about felting down the sides of things and underneath. Okay, and so you would just keep doing that, bearing in mind, if you really don't like what you've done, you can always lay a little piece of extra over the top and just do your dents anyway. But play around with that. I mean, even, you know, practice a little bit on your mat like that, and then go ahead and put them on. But they'll, you know, put them on lightly, pull them off, have many goes. We all do. Okay, so that gives you basically the basics that I hope gives you enough to go and play with that part of the project, because it is all playing. It's supposed to be enjoyment, it's supposed to be playing, it's not to be worried about, it's trial and error. We all do it, and it doesn't matter how many times you do something in, you know, a particular skill, you still get it wrong, and you still have to actually do them again on many occasions. Was it someone said the other day, they got some scissors out to their piece because of the sizing which I'd put on the particular instruction kind of led it to be bigger than it should have been, and so took scissors to it. I take scissors to mine on many occasions. I'm just going to pull this up and show you this. See how that, even though this is a very plasticky, because I haven't pulled it off, you see how that's got quite felted in there. But what it hasn't, because basically it's come, that felt's come through the other side. Can you see that? What it hasn't done is felted into my lovely mat. Okay, so that's why I love using gauze and things. I should have lifted that up more, to be honest. Completely my fault. But nevertheless, because I've got that on, it saved my mat, which is brilliant. Right, okay, now let's get on to the shape. So let's take our 2 little pieces over there. In fact, let me take his little hat off. So, as you can see, his little shape here is he's got, if I cover up his wings, yeah, he's just slightly more rotund at the bottom. He's got his little dimple and then the head shape, okay? And then we create the shapes of the eyes and everything on top and add the little tail at the back. Now, if I bring forward one of these, that's about there. Yes, so here's one I've been working on. Now, this one actually has got a smaller, I think we've actually got a smaller shape to the top of the head. Bearing in mind, every time I do this, I would do it differently. So I fully expect yours to have either bigger heads, smaller heads, or whichever way you end up going. All of them are correct. Okay, I particularly love these great wispy eyebrows myself. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to get on and create this shape. I need to make sure I've got a pencil. I need to make sure I've got a pair of scissors. Oh, there you go. I've got a little pair of scissors so I can show you that bit when I get to that. Okay, so let's read my instructions to make sure I'm following my own instructions. So 4A. So to make the owl, divide the white wool into 2. Always good to always divide so that you've got extra bits. Now I also would take a bit off. It's kind of, I always say, regardless of what you're doing, take a bit off because you might need some extra bits on something later. Now in this case we do, because we've got our little hat that we're doing, and if you haven't put the white snow on the branch, you might want to do that later. So we always put a bit aside. So then we've got our bit, which we're going to go into 2, pull that apart. Now we haven't yet done the fluffing. Absolutely do the fluffing in this case so that you have got as much size as possible. Fluffy is flexible, as I say, because I know we spend most of our time pushing the air out and felting them, but if it's fluffy like this, then we can create the shape that we want. Whereas if it's more solid, we're much more limited how much of a shape and everything we can define. So we are going to fluff that up. There we go. Okay. There we go. So we have our piece. Brilliant. Okay, so, and we're going to tie a knot in the wool, as you can see in picture 4A, and then tie it again to make it a bit larger, and then wrap the rest around it to start to create that kind of rotund pear shape. Yes, it's that kind of rotund pear shape because it's bigger at the bottom than it is at the top. About 8 centimeters tall. Right, should we double check that, bearing in mind my little, there you go. Yep, so the body is 8 centimeters tall once it's done that. Okay, the pear shape. Ooh, just dropped some beads. Oh, no, caught. Oh, pop that on there. Okay, because it's the rotund pear shape, but we're actually going to make it about 8 centimeters tall. So we start off creating the whole of the shape, and then we will make sure it's pear-like rather than creating the bottom half and then add in the top half on it. Good. Okay, so we do that by tying and knotting it, and the reason we're tying and knotting it is to give a nice core in the middle, which doesn't take us an awful lot of time of actually felting it to get that core. So an overhand knot. Okay, pull that. You know, it doesn't have to be tight, but just a nice, so that it has actually got substance to it, and then over again, so it just makes that a little bit bigger. Okay, and then we're going to wrap these bits around. Now I, in this case, have most definitely got a bottom and a top, so I'm just going to do that shape, lightly felt that in place, pop that back up there, and then I shall see how tall that is and therefore how much we need to add. There we go. So where are we with that little shape? Oh, there you go. So that is about 8 centimeters tall. So that's good. So I know I've got the height, so I can afford to just tuck that in there. All right. So create the hole in the middle to attach the branch. Take a pair of scissors, snip through the bottom to about halfway, then take a pencil and place it to keep the hole open. And then we use the second half of the white wool, leaving a bit aside for the hat. Well, we've already left a bit aside so that we build up the owl's body. The bottom should be wider than the top, about 7 centimeters wide at the bottom and 5.5 at the top. So there you go. So we know we've got our 8 centimeters about in height. So the next half that we're going to do, and I am actually going to split that a bit so that we do that in at least a couple. Now let me explain to you about the bit in the bottom. So I'm going to create the hole in the bottom because what we want to do is to then have the pencil inside, as you can see in the photos, because then you can start building up around, and it helps to keep that nice and large so that, like I was showing you earlier, you can take it on and off the pipe cleaner. The pipe cleaner is obviously fluffy, so it will catch the fibres as it goes on and will stay on, but we want to easily be able to take it off and put it on so that we can adapt to that. Okay, right. So we do that early on. So basically, if you've got an awl, I mean, it's still very soft at the moment, so I can quite easily make a hole in the centre. Okay, feels a little bit like shouldn't do it, but there we go. Doesn't matter if you go too far up because you can just stop. The branch will stop. There you go. So it just kind of, let me see if I've squished that too far up. No, still got that. Brilliant. Now, okay, so I'm going to split that one again so that I've got a quarter of what's left. And because the bottom bit, now even though the bottom bit's wider, it's obviously still quite slim, and it needs to be. It's wider than it is that way. Okay, and also remember we're going to be adding bubble gum and everything on top, so let's just get that bottom part done a bit more, and I'm going to lightly felt this in. And obviously we know we've got the pencil in the middle, but we should just be lightly, so if we happen to tap in and feel the pencil, we just pull back. Okay, just keep that nice, and because we've got that nice core in the middle, we don't need to worry about using our strong needle. We can just use our light needle and make sure we get the right shapes and the right size. Okay, so that's that bit. Now, am I going to, in fact, let me take a smaller piece and just do that top bit, because I know it needs to be smaller. I don't want to put the same amount on there. And it really is just building up the shape, knowing what it needs to look like. Yeah. Making it less fluffy and having fluffed it all up, knocking the air out of it, but in doing so we can put it exactly where we want it, rather than having solid bits and you know, that's the only place it can go. Okay, just going to felt a little bit down beside the pencil so that that kind of makes a bigger channel down there. Okay, I'm not going to do this all the way through, but I know this is kind of a larger project with the, you know, the different stages, and what I want to do is to encourage absolutely everybody and show you that you can all do this, in case somebody was thinking, ooh, that's a bigger project than I was expecting to do. Okay, so let's make that head part definitely a little bit smaller than the bottom, just by felting that in there. And then I think the next piece I might do across the whole thing, if it's actually got its, you know, if it looks good in terms of being smaller at the top and bigger at the bottom in comparison. Okay, so you can see, yeah. And here we go. So let me make that nice, and so I've still got this amount left, and I know I'm still going to be covering this with bubble gum as well. There you go, just tack that in there, and just take that round the top. Yeah. See, I keep tapping the pencil, but that's okay. Keep that nice and smaller at the top. We don't want that to get bigger than the bottom. There we go. Because as soon as we've done this shape, we will be covering it in the bubble gum. Okay, now I've kind of swung my pencil a bit out obscurely there. Let's make sure. Well, of course, you know, you might actually want your owl at an angle and say, well, actually, I don't want it to sit in the centre. I want it to be a little bit lopsided. Many creations that I have made have ended up lopsided just because I've held it in a strange way. I've been making it, and then you go, oh, do you know, I quite like that. Okay, there we go. So pop that in that side there, just to make sure that bottom bit is nice and secure. And I still have that other piece that I can put on. Okay, so as we can see, and I can still squish it. Yeah, I can still squish it and say, right, I want it to be a bit there. I want to pull that bit down there. I know it's going to be that slight little angled, you know, it's going to be round underneath. I know that, so I can easily start to curve that in if I want to, but more often than not I would wait till I'm doing the bubble gum bit to do that. But there we go, so we've got quite a good little shape going. Still got some more to add on it and get going. Okay, so hopefully that's given you a good idea with regards to creating the shape. Now, where's my little notes? Right, so once you've done that, obviously, as I say, yeah, that's about, in fact, you see how I said I'd made the head slightly smaller on that one. This one, it's actually bigger, but it's still close enough for jazz. And then, as I say, adding the bubble gum, which I won't take you through because otherwise this will just end up being the opposite of all the others and being an epic or I should say even worse than all the others, and become an epic. Right, so just to explain about the wings. So the wings which go on here can create whatever shape wings that you like, but as you can see in the booklet here, 7A, you kind of draw the shape on your mat, and this is where it is really good to have something laid down, because you can just lift it up. And by draw, I do mean, so you take a piece of your wool, lay it out, decide on that shape that you're going to have. So let me just decide, I'm going to do that kind of triangular wing shape. Okay, you see that? So I literally just tap the needle around the edge, giving that shape. And if you have got quite a lot out of the side, you can just fold that in. If you think, oh, actually I haven't really got very much around the outsides, then lay some more bits in the middle, and just within that area that you've just tapped out and created the shape, just fill it in a bit until you're happy. As I say, that's actually quite a bulbous piece, so you know, I'd add some more if you wanted to. Okay, make sure you leave some of the teal, because you use that for the kind of shading here. You might want to even make an owl's eye, which one open, you know, and one shut, and have him doing his I'm keeping an eye on things. So then you just fold that over where you created that shape, fold that over, and then suddenly we've got a nice bulkiness in the center. Yeah, fold that in. Okay, and fold that in. If you suddenly think then, oh, that's a lot, you can pull it, or even at this stage, I would even say you could snip it, because you're still got enough that you're gonna, I wouldn't normally say snipping with scissors, because you sort of have these shortish ends, but don't worry about it, because if I lift that up, in fact I'll show you, if you lift it up like that, it's much easier, okay, because you can just turn it back over the other way and felt it back the other way, and keep working on that shape, you know, until you're happy, and then you can decide to add it to your piece. It doesn't have to be perfect before you add it to the piece, because you're still going to felt it in place. Okay, good. I know we did briefly talk about the wrapping round the needle, but I would say that with regards to the eyebrows, that is kind of the best way to do it, because you get this bit quite tight and then you flounce that bit off the end, which means you can take your needle, and you're always going to go up and down, as I've said before. Let's keep that as ribbon-like. See how sometimes you have to work at keeping that ribbon-like, but it's well worth it. Go down and then up, and then leave that bit definitely out long. Roll that in your hand, take that off. Now if you think, oh, I want that a bit thinner or thicker, you can pull it at that stage and then just give it a little bit of a light felt. And once you've done that, if you actually then decide you want to make it even smaller or tighter, just give it a good rub, and that will give it that. Now obviously that's very dramatic, isn't it, in comparison to what you've got there in terms of huge, but then you would place it and get that nice and flouncy bit. I know I'm whizzing through this. The bit which says about you know, drawing the details on the face. The only reason for that is so that you can look at your piece with your needle, sort of as I drew on the mat there. Draw the shape so you can see where they are, because you can look at it and go, oh no, that doesn't look good, and then you can just add a little bit of wool over the top and cover it up and go again. Okay, with regards to the tail, which you're going to shape on your mat in the way that I've just described, here where you're actually doing your shape into the mat as you did before, and then using the teal to create some stripes. Now if when you get to this bit the tail that you've done is a bit fatter than you think it should be, take it off the mat and put it under an iron, or I personally use hair straighteners, and just to squish it. And sometimes you only have to squish the edge, you don't have to squish the centre, because if the edge is flat it will look flat, because you only ever look at the edge. Okay, so don't worry about it, but just slightly flatten the edges if that's what you need to do. Okay, good. Yeah, so you know, and once again, when you're placing the tail, you can use it with pins, play around with it, and the nose is done the same way as the wings. And the hat, well, once again, personally, I would get a cocktail stick and wrap it, and then wrap it back down so that you've got smaller at one end and bigger at the other. Am I doing that in the wrong place? Yeah, I would wrap down a cocktail stick in the same way that I was wrapping down that. Yeah, I know I'm whizzing through this, but I just don't want to make this so long. In fact, I'm looking at it, it's 40 minutes long already. So I just wanted to make sure I covered everything. But as ever, if I've whizzed through something and you thought, what on earth is she talking about? Or you have another question which I haven't covered, please do ask below. I will always add another video or pop on live if that's an easier way of doing it. Okay, so I'm going to leave you there. I'm not going to talk about anything else about Christmas trees or anything. We'll do that on another time. Okay, so I'm really looking forward to seeing your lovely little owls, because as I say, I love owls. I just think they're splendid, and it'll be fabulous to see your versions. So happy felting. Hello and welcome to day 16 of the Crafty Kit Company Advent Calendar. So, what do we have here? I have my envelope, and I also have my, on page 43, our wonderful picture of our mini Christmas pudding that we're going to make today, and instructions on the other side. So I'm going to put that onto the overhead, and then I've got a couple of little Christmas puddings here, which actually I haven't put the little thread on yet to hang from my tree, but I have got my embroidery thread that I use for that. So little Christmas puddings, hopefully a nice easy one. Yeah, it's good to have the little ones, isn't it, in between the bigger ones, give us a little breathing space. Okay, so I'm going to go over to my overhead. Here we go, lovely. Let's move over here. Right, is that better? So I can still see what I'm doing. Brilliant. Can still see myself there. Okay, right, so let's have a look inside. So, and a little white ball. There we go. Great. So just 3 basic colours here, because it's our Christmas pudding. That's the great thing about the brown. It's such a variegated colour. It's brilliant for things like puddings and mince pies and that, because it just gives you that varied colour. It's not just all one big colour. And the lovely Christmas card, which you got your envelopes for in the little bag that we got. And as said before, our tracing paper for not this particular project, but perhaps for another project later on, or if not, for another project you're doing elsewhere. Okay, so not a huge amount to go over this time. I just thought it's worth mentioning a couple of things, because as I've said before, we've got people who are new to the Crafty Kit Company, we've got people who are new to needle felting, and obviously we've got people who've been here a while, but you may or may not have heard these tips before, so it's worthwhile just mentioning again. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to cover the ball, and the thing is, you've got enough wool here to more than, you know, just cover it. You could actually make it a little bit bigger. If you think, actually, I would like my pudding to be a bit bigger than that, you no doubt will have extra wool left over from the other projects, that, because it wouldn't matter which colour it was, to build it up. Okay, so you can just build up, because if just by covering it, I mean this amount, let's have a very little felt here, and we can see how very quickly that would cover it. I mean, obviously we're going to felt more than this into it to make sure it's substantially done. There we go. I should have got one that I'd done earlier so that I could just show the next stage really, but there you go. I think what I might do is felt this and fast forward it. Okay, so I have really just put that light layer on. I still have this much left over, so I can add more and more to build it up however thick I want it to be, or just leave it. Now, one thing is worth mentioning, that if you're struggling to get all of your fluffiness down, just a good way of doing it. Now, I have said before, and I'll say it again, which is if you put hand cream on and do this, it actually helps even more, or water or anything like that, which just dampens it down and gives you that nice, it just gets it into a much also rounder shape if you've pushed it out of shape a bit. Now, the reason why I've done this is because I want to show you. Now, did I mention you've got your little piece of green felt? Probably not, because when we do these little puddings, we can make the little berries with the red, but it would be quite difficult to make the little holly leaves that small. So I thought it sensible to include a piece of felt, so then you can cut them as big or as small as you like, and then just felt the end in, and it's all good. Okay, so I just wanted to show you, because obviously you've got the white on the top for the sauce, and I'm going to just show you a little tip there. Rather than just getting a piece and laying it on and felting it, a good way to do it is to actually fold it over in your hand, not necessarily uniformly, but just so that you've got a shape. Okay, so that when you put it on, I'm just going to put it on that bearish patch. Okay, you haven't got masses of fluff sticking out. And then if you just go around the edge, and can you see? I wonder if I can pull the, excuse me, while I do a bit of zooming here maybe. Okay, I'm going to zoom, there we go. Okay, hopefully we can see that a bit better. So just by taking your needle underneath rather than on top, okay, so you're felting it underneath, so you're almost taking the loose bits and tucking them underneath, and just very lightly felting it in place. So lifted that up, push that down just underneath. It just enables you to once again get a neater edge rather than a fluffy edge. I mean, obviously it's sauce, so it's not going to be all flat and straight or anything like that, but you may not want it to be as hugely fluffy as it is. So my tip is to felt it in underneath, and then once you've done that all the way round, there we go, you can still see that, yeah, then just do a light felt on top, because you're just laying it on top. It doesn't need to be sort of moulded into it, because it can protrude a little bit, and then if you want to add a bit more to build it up at all, you can do. Okay, yep, good. Right, so let's just quickly show you about the berries. So berries, make them as big or as little as you want. You may have very big holly berries where you are, but roll it in your hand. Once again, if you've got damp, then that just helps you. Now you can see how I've got a sausage shape. Now I can roll it then from that into a ball, but it's obviously not a perfect ball, and that's a good thing, because it's quite good to grab hold of like a little tail, so then I can hold the berry shape, grab my needle and just push the little tail in. Okay, and once again I'm going to go round underneath while I'm kind of pulling the wool around so that it's ball shape, but I'm felting underneath so that the ball is still protruding, because we don't really want a flat berry. Okay, there you go. So that's my, you see how it's still protruding? Yeah, do that however big or small, or numbers that you want. Look at these huge scissors I've got. That's ridiculous. Right, now you don't need to be particularly proficient in doing a leaf shape. I'm just going to do it, it's almost a kite shape I've done here. Okay, because they're holly leaves. So I'm just going to hold that end, tip in, and felt in place. If you're struggling to get it to stay in place, take a little bit of the white and just put that on top, and that will help you to felt that in. Just by felting some wool over the top, that will help you to felt that in and keep that in place. Okay, one other tip I will say is, if when you put your red berry on you think, oh, that's too big, okay, instead of ripping it out and starting again, I would still felt underneath and in until you can get it as small as you can, but then I would grab some white wool and just put it into kind of sausagey shape and just put that around it and felt it around the berry, building up, thus making the berry smaller. Yeah, just an idea. I do things like that all the time, where I put things in and they're bigger. Okay, so hopefully that explains it. Now, as I say, you can put glitter, you can make them bigger, you can put huge leaves or little leaves, to your heart's content. You can play with this one, and I've got my green thread that I will be putting on later so that I can actually hang it from my tree, and in fact I've already got 2 over here, so I shall finish this one and then I shall have a set of 3. Okay, brilliant. So looking forward to seeing your felted mini puddings.
Everyone, my name's Jan, and today is the 17th of December, so I'm going to be opening bag number 17 of the Advent kit. So let's see what's inside. We've got some beautiful scarlet, white and black wool. Very, very Christmassy. Because today we're going to be making a post box. It's a fairly straightforward project. It's basically a white cylinder you're making under here and covering it with scarlet wool. My top tip would be to get a very flat, smooth finish. When you have finished needle felting, just pass an iron over the top and it will flatten it right down. It wouldn't be Christmas without a bit of glitter, so I don't know if you can see this, but I've put a bit of glitter on the top, and I've also added a few lines on the white box in the middle. If you are having trouble getting your post box to stand up, make sure that the bottom is firmly felted, and then if you're still having trouble, just push your thumb in the middle there, and you should have no trouble in getting it to stand up straight. So, there we are. Hope you enjoy the project, and happy Christmas to you all.
Hello and welcome to day 18 of our Crafty Kit Company Advent Calendar. So I have my envelope. It's one of the small envelopes, one of the small white envelopes, and we are doing mini Nordic gnome. How cute is that? Who doesn't love a Nordic gnome on Christmas? So let's pop those over there a sec. So the picture, or close to the picture, no, it's slightly different. Here's my little sample. In fact, the one that you've got in the picture has got a little white brim to his hat, whereas this one hasn't. He's just, let me hold him by his hat, I'm sure he won't mind. He's just got a little ponytail at the back and a very elaborate moustache, and his pink nose sticking out from under his hat. So this is a great opportunity to go as either mad or not as you like, because obviously we've got the colours that I've got here in the kit, but I will show you in a moment when we go over to the overhead some other options that we have, but I shall open the pack over there as well. So let me swing over. Lovely. Here we go. And swing this back. Great. Okay, right. So yes, here we have our Nordic gnome in all its splendour. And let's open our little envelope. So obviously we have our very nice little Christmas card, ho ho ho, which I shall pop over there. And we have our little ball. Let's untangle him there. Okay. And we have our red, we have our grey, we have our white, pink and green. So hat, clothes, body, hair and rim, nose and feet, if you choose to go in this way, these little feet. Now the little feet I put on to aid in the standing up, because obviously we've got a very small little ball which we square off a little bit with some of the white wool, and then we have his little feet just to, she says, to prove the point that he doesn't. And then I have to say the little ponytail at the back there does rather help with the stability factor. Okay, so the other, before I go into that and show you anything with regards to our little gnome, I have got here a rather elaborate little chap, okay, and he's got plaited sides, he's got ponytail at the back, he's got his little knotted beard and also his elaborate whiskers, as well as a bubblegum body. He hasn't actually got any feet, but he's got an awful lot of red in his hat. Okay, so what I've done with this one was, because we're on day 18 and I've been going through the kit as well, I actually have some colours left over from other projects, and if you do too, then you don't have to use the colours that I've gone here. But I had the ginger left over, I believe, from the mince pie project, but I also had a lot more red left over from other projects as well. So that meant I could actually make a bigger hat. Yep. And because, as we all know, I have a huge loving of bubblegum, I did use some of the bubblegum for the body. But, you know, I'm looking down at my pile of extra bits that I've got. The world is your oyster, in depending on what you choose to take. Now, I'm going to take you through, obviously, the colours and everything that we've got here, but just to show you how you can. And the great thing about, I didn't put any feet on him, because with his ponytail at the back, his beard at the front, and his two little stabilisers, otherwise known as plaits, on the side, he stands up rather well without his feet. But obviously you can add feet and everything as well. But just to show you, you can go a little bit, could even put a little bell on the end of his hat if you wanted to, couldn't you? So yeah, anyway, I'm going to show you the basics, which is what we've got here in our little gnome for hanging from the tree. And then I really want to see what you come up with. Yep. Okay, let's move that out of the way. Right. So let's bring the little mat over. If I need to go in closer, I will do. So firstly, what we need to do is to just make that bottom a little bit squarer, so that, and so it is just a case of taking a small amount off here, because I don't want to take too much, because I want to leave enough for the elaborate hair that I do or don't want to do. So I can just roll that piece up so that you can just pop that on the bottom, felt away. And I'm not going to do this at length, because obviously it's a little project, and this is just to give you some help in making sure you allocate the wool correctly, if by any chance you don't have huge amounts of leftovers and this is your only chance of getting it done. So there we go. I'm just going to do a very little bit there, just to show us adding it on without really doing it properly. But also, as I did with my second one, let's just call him the red one, shall we? I didn't make the bottom quite so wide as I did with the first one, which I wanted to add my feet on. So it's up to you. Here we go. So it really is just to simulate that little bottom, so that, let's see if he stands up. Nope. Okay. We need to do a little bit more. The proof is always in that, will he stand up? Won't he stand up? I mean, if he doesn't stand up this time, we'll give him a bit of a squish. There you go. Yeah, he does stand up. Okay. So, as I say, we're going to, as per the instructions here, we will add the grey wool all over just to cover him, because that's just basically his body and clothes underneath. It was just to give him a nice neutral colour underneath, so that everything else shows up. But if you decide to do a plait and everything here, you probably won't see much of that either. Okay, so right. So the next stage is the nose. So you can make the nose as big and as round or as long or anything that you like. I will just say that if you fold up, fold up, fold up, fold up, and leave yourself with a little tail, and then felt that in, I will also say try and felt it as, I mean, obviously the hat is going to be on the top there, okay, but the nose is just going to be under the hat. So don't do the nose down here at the bottom of the original ball. Do it about halfway up the ball, or about, you know, in that bit there. Let me show you, because you want it as high as possible, peeking out from underneath his cap. Okay, I'm just going to make my, there we go. If you find your little ball is a little bit too hard for you to felt into, and I believe it was Anna which told us earlier in the week about perhaps rolling the ball in your hand to soften it a bit. But the other thing is, if you just use the smaller needle, which is the blue one, you should be able to felt just fine into it. It would be the stronger one, the green one, that you might struggle a little bit or feel resistance. Okay, so here we go. I'm just lightly felting the top, but I'm just felting underneath, and then I'm going to felt in to make the shape that I want to do without stabbing myself, hopefully. It was a close call, wasn't it? Please don't do as I do and protect yourself. Right. Now, this is rather large than I would normally do. I would normally make him a bit smaller. But just to say, you could make him a very large little nose if you wanted to. Large little, that's a bit of a contradiction, Steph. Okay, let's just make it a little bit smaller. Okay, but just to say, because you're going to do, I mean, that was actually quite a small nose there. Okay, but to show you could actually make that quite big, especially if you are going to give him that little rim. If you're going to give him the white rim, so for instance, if I put the white rim around that hat there, that nose would suddenly disappear. So you might want to actually give him quite a big nose, but do it there. Okay. Obviously I haven't done mine grey, but you have to imagine that I've done that. Right, and so then adding all the facial hair, etc. So this is where you have fun. And if you're going to do it with the white, then I'm sure you have your own ideas about how you want to do this or not do this. But plaiting wise, I just take 3 strands like this. One of those is a lot thicker than the others, so let me just play around with that. Okay, now they're quite thin, and this is where I do the hand cream or water. I'm just me around water on the table with my computer. Not sensible, you know. I'm running risk having a cup of tea though, to be honest. Right, okay, so with that bit of fluff, rub it in my hand, and suddenly I've got a nice little piece of yarn. Now these aren't going to be very even because one's going to be so much bigger than the others, but I wouldn't personally worry about that. And then I would just put them together at the top, put a needle in, boom, and then I'd start plaiting down. And that's how I would get my little plaits down the side. For the moustache, depending how long you actually want it, let me just take a little bit off there. Okay, I would just say, right, okay, that's how long, put in the middle, and then once again with my still, bit of a ghost over there, still with my hand moisturiser on, I would just twirl the ends together. Okay, and then I would have an elaborate moustache. That's rather large, isn't it? But it's quite useful to show you, but I would probably make it a little bit smaller than that, because if that goes on, I think he might fly away, don't you? And then beard or ponytail at the back, that is just a case of, okay, coming about, thinking, right, okay, that would be the bit which I felt down into the top, and then I would just tie a knot at the bottom. So twirl that round a bit and then bring that round to tie a knot. Pull that through, there we go, and then you've got a little knot, and that would either be sort of ponytail at the back, let me show here, so ponytail at the back, little beard at the front, the handlebar, moustache, and the little, so they're kind of the mixture. I mean, I've also done before now is given them horns out the side, as in very Viking. So you could even do a Viking chap if you wanted to. But yeah, once again here, if I had done the rim, that little nose would have disappeared. So it would be good to do a jolly big one if you're going to do the rim. And if I wanted to add the rim, once again, I would do a piece like this. And then take that around and just felt that into position. Okay, and I would felt top and bottom and not in the middle, so that you didn't squish it too much, and then chop it off when I got to the back and just neaten that up. Okay, so as I say, you can stick to the colours. The wonderful thing about our Nordic gnomes is at Christmas, is if you do make your little gnome, just remember every little gnome which is in your home is there to actually look after your home for the rest of the year. But on Christmas Eve, they require porridge and a knob of butter. Now, traditionally, you would leave them outside your back door. But if your little gnomes are in your house, I think you can be forgiven for actually just giving it direct to them. But they must have the knob of butter, because that's like the extra special Christmas Eve treat. So you have been told. But yes, so, you know, I love a Nordic gnome. I love the fact that you can go bizarre with colours and you can keep them as simple or as not. And then you can tie a little piece of embroidery, which I will put mine through about there and hang that from my tree, as well as my red, Ethel Red, the Reddy. They're fantastic, aren't they? Just love a gnome. Love a gnome. Right. So, yes, I hope you're inspired to go wild. If not, I'm still looking forward to seeing your, what I will call traditional colours, and seeing what shapes of beards and moustaches and everything else that you do. And I'm also looking forward to seeing what colours and everything you come up with. Okay, right, enough. I need to let you get on. So, happy felting. Hello and welcome to day 19 of the Crafty Kit Company Advent Calendar Reveal and Tips. I'm Stephanie, and today in your Makes book you have got the Arctic Fox, who's on page 49. Okay, so who doesn't love an Arctic Fox? So I wanted to actually talk a little bit first about the Arctic Fox and the shape, and how you can look at shapes and help you with your make. And then I will go to the overhead camera and just have a little look at the actual make itself. But sometimes it's worth to having the overall picture in your mind when you're creating something. Okay, so that's the book. Let's just bring, here's a little sample of one that I've made earlier. Now, I'm going to very quickly just go over to the actual young little fox that inspired the make. Now, as you can see, the Arctic Fox actually has an awful lot of grey on his fur. He's not just all white. So you can actually bring that into your make as much or as little as you want, because in the season of an Arctic Fox, they go from sort of white to quite grey and lots of mixtures in between. So there's plenty of opportunity for you to create your own one. And obviously this is a young Arctic Fox we've got here. By contrast, if we go back over to, this is a stamp from Canada of an older Arctic Fox on the prow, but how beautiful is that face if you want to look in terms of the ears and the eyes, where you've got the black around the eyes and where the eyes go down at the edges, even on the outside. Just little details like that can make quite a difference to a face. And then come back to the third, which is a cartoony version, because I always say go to a cartoon if you are struggling with any kind of animal face, be it, you know, a cat, a dragon, whatever. Go to a cartoon version of it, because they will overemphasize a shape. And here we've kind of got that diamond shape, because you've got the puffed out cheeks, the nice little down pointy chin and nose, and it rounded off on the head. But nevertheless, you've still got that kind of diamond shape to go for, which I do mention in the creation of our piece. And sometimes it's worth having this kind of cartoon to come back to just give you that overemphasis. And also the position that I've got in this particular project is the sitting position that we can see here on the left, on the top left, with the legs which, you know, start off out wide and come in to the front. Now you might think, actually I'd quite like to make a little lying down one, which you can do with everything that we've got here, because the tail will still be the same, the face will still be the same, and also in this one obviously the eyes are shut. So if you really don't fancy putting the eyes in and everything that entails and that, you could just have a nice little black slit to do a nice little sleeping Arctic fox. So the only difference with this bottom one, the sleeping one, is just the body, because you'd obviously have a much more rounded body that the tail will then curl round and the head would sit on the top of. So yeah, plenty to choose from there. So yeah, so you can see I have added a little bit of grey. I don't know if you can really see on this particular video, but I have added a bit of grey, a bit of dark, you know, black mixed with white, grey, anything of in between. And you can see on the eyes here where I have actually just I've overemphasized the going down at the corners of the eyes, just like the little picture of the fox that we saw. Okay, so we will now go over to the overhead camera. Okay, so here we are over on the overhead camera. So first of all, our packet, a nice little, the large packet, number 19. And as you can imagine, there's more white than there is anything else. You will also need to grab a pair of the amber eyes, because as you could see by the photograph of the little Arctic fox that I showed just now, certainly a type of Arctic fox has very amber eyes. Now we have lots of white wool here, and as I have mentioned before, but I'll say it again just in case you didn't watch the other videos, the wool when it arrives has obviously been squished up as much as possible to get it in all the packages so that you can have everything that you need. So when you get it out, just fluff everything up. Now you've got lots of black here, you won't need that much, and you've got a nice selection of the grey, which is drizzle. So it's a really nice variegated grey, which will be brilliant for adding any of those grey features as I showed you on that lovely little Arctic fox, and very much on all of your white core wool. Get it all fluffed up so that you can then get a bit of vegetable matter out of the way, so you can then shape it exactly how you want it to be. But fluffy is flexible. So there we go. I'm just doing it a little bit just to, I don't really need to show you all the way along, but if you do that all the way along so that you've got nice fluffed up wool. I'm just going to very briefly, I'm not going to take you through how to roll up, because you can see in the start, well you can't see, but if you look at your booklet, you've got at the start where you can roll up this first shape, which is going to be the body. Now just bear in mind as it says in the instructions, that we have a body which is sitting, so he's very slightly, he or she, very slightly angled. Okay, and the shape that you're going to start is by making it a bit bigger at the bottom, because that's where you've got your bottom, and then it comes up to thinner at the top, and then you add your legs, and you add your legs here and the head on top. Okay, now obviously that doesn't quite match the shape here because we've got a chest, so that's why in step 3 you flatten this top bit, because that's where the head is going to be put on. So get that nice and flat. If you've got that a little bit pointy, because obviously you've built up your shape, get that nice and flat, and then you can add a bit for the chest. So once again, you can see here this chest. Now you don't have to worry too much, because obviously once the legs and everything are on, you can add that detail, you can add more of that as you go. It's definitely one of those projects where you just keep going, put it all together, and then you reassess it and think, right, okay, you know, those legs need to come out a bit more or down a bit more, or I want to emphasize these lines. You know, if you go back to that cartoon picture that I put up, and it sort of emphasized the shape around there, and that's quite nice. And you can see, if you took the ears off, you would be able to see that diamond shape in the head. So you've got the nice cheeks out, the little chin and the top. Okay, and here I've put grey in the ears to try and emphasize the ears a bit more. Okay, now I'm going to just show you the very random head shapes that you start off with. Let's go here, let's go there, and go to there. Okay, it does look odd when you start off, but as in stage 4, where it says, you know, just squish it so that you can see that you've got that diamond shape, and put your line across with the needle, just by felting a line across, so you think, right, that's, my eyes are going to go across there, and I'm going to put the shape in. This is where the little, I've poked a hole where the nose will go. And then once you've done that, on the next step, you actually put the eyes in, where it really does look quite comical. But then adding the black wall behind, okay, just so that one hasn't got the black wall behind, and that has, you know, it looks amazingly different. And then I have actually brought it out to the side, and you can bring it out to the side as much or as little as you want, and chop that off. You know, if you don't want to overemphasize that bit, then just have it behind, but the eyes won't be that bright. Okay, and then also on this one, I have just built up, I wonder if you can see that, let me zoom in. Okay, you can probably just about see the white bit underneath, and also the brow over the top, because what that does is helps the eye to be sunken in. So you've got it there, put the black behind, and then you just will build up the brow and the under bit, which then suddenly you've got a nice sunken eye rather than a sitting up on top eye. And then the next stage is where you're going to add the snout, which, if I just pick this one up, so you add the snout where you are, you know, you're still bringing it down the sides. It's not just a snout in the middle, and building it up. Now I've left him obviously nice and fluffy deliberately, and even the last layer that I did was I took some really thin layer of wool and just lightly felted it on the top, just to bring out the fluffiness. Now if you're someone who's done some needle felting for a while, you might have a reverse needle, and that may be your preferred way of making your little fox fluffy. So you might want to felt it quite hard to start with, and then make him fluffy afterwards by pulling some of the threads and fluff out. It's completely up to you. It works both ways. Let me just double check if there was anything else that I was going to mention. So yeah, I've got a bit of grey on the end of the tail and everything as well. There we go. So keep referring back to those either realistic pictures or the cartoons, which, as I say, I find the cartoons really, really helpful, not just for foxes, but for any animal, because it helps give you the emphasis. That if you make that emphasis in that area, and in this case, you know, a fox definitely has the fluffy cheeks which come out of the side and the pointy nose, it looks very fox-like just by doing those things. Okay, brilliant. Okay, so I look forward to seeing your fox, and whether you do a sitting fox like this one, whether you do a lying fox, it's completely up to you, and I look forward to seeing them. And if you have any questions, please put them below. And once again, happy felting. Hello and welcome to day 20 of the Crafty Kit Company Advent Calendar. So today we have on page 53 of your booklet a little mini pig in a blanket. Very cute. I'm loving these little mini projects. So anybody who is not in the UK, pigs in blankets are a delicacy here in the UK, which we love with our Christmas dinner. And here's a comedic take on pigs in blankets. So, right, let me get my little one. Here we go. Here's my little one, which should be put him over the side, away from my very bright orange jumper. There we go. Excellent. So I'll slightly go to the overhead camera so that we can just look at what's inside the packet and anything that you might need to know about. So let's transfer over here. Right, so number 20, lovely. Put a little piggy there. Instructions there. Okay, so inside we have got all the lovely colours. We've got the lovely cards, which I should pop over here, and our tracing paper. Fabulous. Right, so we have got, importantly, our little ball. We've got our white ball to add some size. We've got our red ball for the blanket. We've got our sunflower wool green blend for the blanket and buttons. Pink, obviously, for our little piggy, and black for the detail. Now, in the instructions, I mentioned that you could add actual amber eyes, or even you could, if you've got some little black eyes, you could add some little black eyes. But I have actually just added a piece of black wool here to the eyes, because I think the amber eyes would possibly be a bit too big, unless you make your pig bigger than mine, which obviously you may want to. So, a couple of tips. So you're starting with your little ball, which you need to add a little bit of white to, so that you make him longer. So he's about this long inside his little blanket. It's the little blanket which holds him up. But obviously we're going to hang him from the tree anyway. Oops, I've just noticed I'm just a little bit off there. Yeah, so he stands up on his little blanket anyway. But, so a really good way to start this off is, rather than starting off with the round ball, as it were, is to just roll it between your hands here and just squish it into a bit of an oblong. Okay, so that's very slightly squished it into an oblong, and also in that process made it a bit softer. Okay, so, and then I would, as per the instructions, add a bit of white to the bottom just to make it a little bit longer, so that he is, well, I suppose I should get my little ruler for you. So mine is, when I'm inside there, he's 3 centimetres long, and currently this is 2.5 centimetres, so really you just need to add another 0.5 centimetre just to give him a bit more length. And as you can see, here's one that I've made pink. Well, I've extended him and made him pink and felted it on, and so you can still give him a nice rolling action, just to give him that little round oblong shape before you get going on adding your little eyes and nose and ear features. And then you're going to make your blanket. So as you can see here on instruction 4, you basically are going to lay out your wool on your mat. I know this isn't my working mat, but just to say, you can lay out your wool on your mat, felting it flat. I mean, this amount will make quite a large amount of, quite a big blanket. But I did that. I made a larger blanket and then I cut it down. Now I've done it once again to kind of imitate the tartan, just with one stripe. But you know, you might want to just leave it red. You might even want to embellish it with a little bit of a white fur collar if you want to. Here I played around with dots and that, but you can do whatever you want with the blanket. It doesn't have to be this one, but once again I was just connecting to the Scottish roots. Okay, so yes, who doesn't love a pig in blankets? So yep, I once again look forward to seeing your version of the pig in blanket, and happy felting.
Hello, my name's Judy, and it's my pleasure to bring to you today day 21 of the Crafty Kit Company Advent Kit. So first of all, let's have a quick look what the project is, and we go to page 55 in our book and we find that we're going to make a wee mouse. So what do we need for doing that? Let's have a little look what's in the bag today. And it's getting quite easy now to find what you want because we've got not many projects left. So in our bag, we have quite a lot of goodies here. We have scarlet wool and candy floss pink wool. We've got the bear dark brown wool, the rabbit light brown wool, the white wool, a pipe cleaner, and a little bag of goodies. We have some red felt, some blush felt, 2 little balls, and some wire. We will also need to go into our little bag of happiness today and get out 2 little bags. So we need a little bag with eyes and we need a little bag with beads to complete this project. So in the best tradition of these lovely videos that you've been receiving, here are some that I made earlier. So I must warn you that they do tend to multiply if you're not keeping an eye on them. So first of all, I have the little brown version of the mouse where we can put some brown wool on. He's got his little spectacles, but you can see he's holding the little Christmas pudding that we made earlier in another project, and also a little Father Christmas hat that again was in another project. And I happen to have sat in here on a little cotton reel that I've had just waiting for him to arrive, I think, really. The little white mouse just shouted fairy to me, so she's been dressed up as a little tiny Christmas fairy. And I did say they multiplied. I've also got a little, lovely little choir boy or choir girl singing carols. So 1 or 2 tips and hints for you, as well as the 4 pages of really, really good instructions that it's worth you having a read of before you start. So one of the things that I liked on my mouse that I added in was some whiskers. I think every mouse needs some little whiskers to twitch. So the way that I do whiskers is I've got a pastry brush, which is getting a little bit thinner on one end. So I just slip off 1 or 2 of the bristles like that, pop a tiny bit of glue on something, like I've got a little bit of perspex that I've got off something else. Then we get our pokey tool, and I haven't actually got all the whiskers done on this one, so pop your pokey tool in, make a little tiny hole, get 1 or 2 of the whiskers, dip it in the glue, and then pop it in the little hole that you just made. And then when you've got enough whiskers in, maybe 3 or 4 each side, you can just trim them to the right length that you like. And there you are with your mouse with whiskers. Another little tip for you. One of the things that you have to do is make some little dents for the eyes. And that can take quite a while when you're needle felting. But if you get something like your end of your pokey tool, or this is my 3-pronged tool that I got from the Crafty Kit Company, and push it really, really hard, you can start off a nice little socket that makes life easier. And needle felt a bit more, then poke it a little bit more. And what I did, rather than put the eye in and then put the brown wool round, I put the brown wool into the socket and then popped my eye in there because it was a little bit easier. And my final little tip for you is the little mouth and nose. And what it says to do in the instructions is roll some teeny tiny little bits of wool and needle felt those in. And I find that quite difficult sometimes. So I take the easy way, get a needle with 1 thread from my embroidery silks, and I just stitch it on, which is a lot quicker and a lot easier. So I hope you have as much fun with your mice as I do, and look forward to seeing your creations of how you might have dressed them. And my last thing to say to you is Happy Christmas.
Hello and welcome to day 22 of the Crafty Kit Company Advent Calendar reveal and tips video. Okay, so we've got our little envelope, number 22. So this is a nice little project. Let me bring this up. It's page 59 on your lovely brochure. So we've got Mini Santa. Well, it's little Mini Santa's head, really, rather than Mini Santa. Although I'm sure the lovely Anna will create a body. She loves to put body on things, quite rightly. But this is just a little project for our Mini Santa, and it's actually the little head, which is going to be a nice little hanging decoration. And here's my little one. There we go. I've got to be honest, I think my little Santa looks a little bit shocked. Well, I mean, who wouldn't be shocked by some of the things he must see when he comes down the chimney? Anyway, so yes, lovely little Santa's head, which is a nice simple project. So let's go over to the overhead and we'll look what's in the bag. Here we go. Right, put my little chap over there. Move my mouse, not my Christmas mouse, but my computer mouse. And again, I've got another lovely card. I'm flattening those all out, and my tracing paper. Collecting a nice lot of tracing paper for projects, which is brilliant. So yes, we've got our little mini ball. By the way, if you want more mini balls, you can just go to the Crafty Kit Company website and order yourself some more to do some more projects. So we've got our white core wool, we've got our candy floss light pink, begonia wool red, and raven. Fantastic. Right, so I've not got a lot I'm going to add to this, because I think having already gone through the gnome on a previous day, a previous make, that kind of covers all the basics in terms of, you know, doing yourself a nose and, you know, creating your beards and things, and your little hat and baubles and rims. Just the difference on this one is obviously because you can see our eyes. So, you know, by creating the little, well, in my case, big eyes, big black eyes, and then I did white at the top just to give eyelids. And then I did actually add some eyebrows up here even higher, which is why I think he looks a bit surprised. And then the little whites, which actually are quite big whites in his eyes. But, you know, he's had a few sleepless nights, hasn't he? You know, wrapping all of the presents, unless of course his little elves did all of that. So yeah, and you know, add bells, add glitter. I don't know if you want, add a body. You know, you could probably do it from extra bits in here, and also you'll have extra wool from your other projects. And then I will be putting a nice bit of embroidery thread. I'm using green, so that I can hang it from my little, I've not got many left, have I? I think I've got one. I've got one gap left at the moment, probably because I'm not sure whether I should have 1, 2. Anyway, that's me digressing. I've only got 10 and I've got 12 to go in, so I was going to hang a couple actually from the bottom of it. But anyway, so here's our little mini Santa, or Santa's head, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, so my tip is just go for it. I was talking to my partner only just now and saying how most projects, you know, you just need to get started. Because once you get started, it's always much easier than you think it's going to be. So let's see your makes. Very much love to see what you produce. Really loved seeing everything that you've all produced so far, and this one will no doubt be no different. But if I should have told you something that I haven't told you, like I say, I think most of the techniques for this have been covered in the gnome and other projects before. But if there's anything that you think, oh, I'd really like to know that, then just ask below and I will either text a reply or even do a little video reply if it requires that. Okay, so, yep, happy felting. Hello and welcome to day 23, not many to go, of the Crafty Kit Company Advent Calendar reveal. So today, let's have a look. Page 61 in your brochure, and we have got the dove, the lovely little white dove. There she is. What could be a he? I'm just going to assume it's a she. She's a she. There she is. Okay. So I want to, before I go over to looking at the envelope and what we've got in there, and looking at just some perhaps sort of tips and ideas with regards to making your dove, I just wanted to very briefly go over and look at the pictures that I looked at before I actually designed her. So let's go initially to a photo of a real dove. Okay. So shape wise of the body and of the wings, because even though we're going to be adding pipe cleaners to the top of the wings, so you're going to be able to bend them about to however you want them, but the tail feathers will very much be the way that you've designed them, and the body shape as well. So this particular one has obviously got the little dove in flight and a little bit twisted to the left, and so you can go all sorts of quirky, and sometimes things like that, you know, little accidents happen when we're in mid-make, let's say. And then I come over to where I've previously said it's really good to actually have a look at a cartoony line drawing, because you really get the basics of the shape that you need to get in order for it to be a dove. And that shape of the little belly underneath, you know, coming to that point for the beak, and the kind of quite small head and where that eye is. And also in terms of where you're going to put the wings on. It's just quite a good picture to look at, cartoons which give you a really, I suppose it's this is where it goes to make it look good, as opposed to if you want to say, right, now I'm going to do something really, really elaborate, you know, a bird flying. Let's have a look at this one. And this is kind of like the in-between. It's not quite a cartoon, but it's not a realistic photo either. It's kind of taking a bit of both. So where you've actually got the tail out wide and the wings all spread. But once again, you've still got those little feet exactly where they are, and those eyes and where the beak is, and it just gives you that overall. But personally, I really like the line drawing to actually help you to fully understand that shape when you're creating the body and everything. So back we come. But there you go. So I just wanted to take you through that before we go to the overhead, and we go through exactly what you've got in your little packet, and some perhaps tips and tricks or ideas for making your lovely little dove. Okay, so here we are over on the overhead camera, and so we've got our lovely dove instructions in front of us and my bag 23. So what do we have in the bag? That's everything. This down. So we have some lovely white felt for the base of our wings and our tail, and lots of white wool, and pink and black for the eyes and for the beak, and one pipe cleaner. There we go. One pipe cleaner that we need to fold in half. I should do that now, and then I should be ready to go. Brilliant. Well, as always, fluff up your wool. The black and the pink look pretty fluffy, so I'm fine with that. But the white wool will definitely need a fluff up so that we can then create the shape that we want. And I suggest that you divide it up into 2/3, and you're using divide it into 3/3, and 2/3 of it are used for the body and 1/3 is used for the head. Yeah, and 1/3 is used for the head. So it's, in my world, it's always as good to split things up at the start so that you've always got enough left. You may have lots of spare core wool and you don't mind, but if the kit is all you're working from, it's good to make sure you've got enough. So I do the obligatory thirds, chop a bit off, and there you go. Good to go. Okay, magic. So we'll just go through the highlights. So creating the shape. So we are creating, let me bring the body of, we are creating this about 10 centimeters long. In fact, this early version that's 10 centimeters. This is a little longer. So it doesn't have to be exact, but to start with, your 10 centimeter gauge to go from. So when you start, either roll up a sausage and then add some plump to the middle and create the kind of hook for the head. But be careful to make sure that that head is nice and slim, because if you look at the photos that we looked at earlier, you notice that that is on a dove, on most birds in fact, they're quite slim up here where the eyes go, and then they come out thicker. So just try and keep that not too bulky, and just sort of vaguely create that bit where you're going to add the beak onto. Okay, and once you've, as I say, in my case, I very much, as you know, like to wrap around things, because I just feel in my world I have more control over that. I'm just not very good at rolling, let's be honest. If you're good at rolling and you just want to roll up the fibre and then add a bit of bulk to the middle, then you've got a good base to start from. And this will be bigger than where you want to get to, because of course the act of felting will actually make it smaller, and then you really are just felting it in and bringing it down, and start to pull it into place. And then, I very much like to fold things to where I want them to go, and then I felt them in place. So you will end up with your shape, and then you need to add your eyes and your beak. Now in this case we're using black wool for the eyes and not the eyes that you will have in your packet, because the eyes you've got in your packet will be too big. Unless, of course, you want to put those in and then cover a lot of it with white wool, which is also an option. So I'm just going to say about the beak, because I think eyes wise you just need to roll yourself a piece of wool, and you can use a bit of water, or put hand cream on to actually help you bring that together, and just deciding where they're going to go and pop them in. But with regards to the beak, I always find you really don't need much wool at all to either, my camera seems to, or perhaps I'm just miles away from the desk today. Here we go. Let me come into view. Either, that's not showing up, is it, because it's pink? Fold it, so like in a triangle, until it can't go in a triangle anymore, and then just felt that in more, put it round, so that basically you're creating yourself a point, okay, and you can hold on to the tail end and just keep going round, but you've definitely got your point until you're happy. But it's quite good to get it so that it's not flimsy, so that it is fairly solidly felted. I'm still using the blue needle here, so, and then even roll it a little bit in your hand to help to compact it. Yeah, and then you're just focusing on getting that to keeping that as a point. Now obviously far too much back here, so you would chop that off, but once you've actually got that so it's nice and solid, you're pretty happy with the size of it. I would personally do a bit more than I've done here. I would chop the flailing ends off. I would get rid of masses of this back here, and then as you can see here, that's not too dissimilar. Can you see that? Yeah, it's not too dissimilar in size. And then you can felt it in. If you end up using, let's just pull those bits off. If you end up felting this onto here and end up with an awful lot more pink than you want, okay, let's just briefly do this in a not very I don't know the word I'm going to use, in a not very accurate way is probably what I'm, yes, oh that's huge, so I'm going to keep, but it looks more huge because of the extra pink that I'm putting all around the head. Okay, so I can, she says hurriedly looking for her scissors, excuse me, trim off any excess which hasn't been felted in, because obviously I've used some of this to get in place. And then grab yourself some of your white and just put it over it, felt it over it. And number one, that will help keep it in place as well. But you can then just cover up the pink with the white, and then you will have a, if you can see what I'm doing here, you'll actually have a smaller beak. Now I haven't done a terrific job there of showing you because it's still too big, and I would play around with that a fair amount, but hopefully you get the gist. So you can overdo it with the pink to start with, but then just cover it
with the white, and then push it about a bit until you've got the shape that you want. Okay. Yes, that's it's still looking weird and still too big. Looks more like a chaffinch. Anyway, one of my finches that I've got in the conservatory. So, yes, so big eyes. I've put the feet on early there. But if you look at one of the pictures that I showed you earlier, the bird which was flying, you'll see, because I mentioned about doing triangles for the feet, and the kind of shape is, you know, thin into the body and then they spread out, so you kind of have that triangle look. Okay, that's enough about the body. Let's get on to the wings. Right, so you've got your felt and you've got your template, and however you like to do that. Some people like to just wing it, very appropriate for this particular project. And other people like to absolutely take the templates, and as someone mentioned earlier, on your even days and all your projects, when you've got those wonderful bags, it's perfect tracing paper, which I have used to trace the templates out the back of the book for the wings and also the tail. Bearing in mind you're doing, you know, a left wing and a white wing. Now, how I do it is I place mine on, and then I get my favourite pen. I think it's a gel pen, waterproof and fade proof. How nice. Anyway, I dot around, and I hold it down to start with, and I dot all the kind of major areas just in case I move it accidentally, which I am very prone to do, and then I dot all the way around. Okay, which seems a bit extreme because that's bright red on a white. But when I cut out, I make sure I absolutely cut inside those lines, so that what I'm actually left with is very much a white cutout. Okay, because if you think about it, you're drawing outside of the template when you're drawing the red line, so you want to actually felt inside the line to get it, if you want it the same as the template. Anyway. Okay, so that's how I do it, but I'm quite sure we all have our favourite ways of tracing and things onto felt. So you have your lovely felt wing. Now we are going to, the first thing we're going to do is add a pipe cleaner, and we cut our pipe cleaner in half. Now I might have to go and get myself an old pair of scissors or a pair of pliers. Usually, if quite often if I bend it backwards and forwards, I can do it, but I don't seem to. It's a nice robust, so I'm gonna take my bit in that, so I've got my half. So what we need to do here is we've got our wing, and it's only the top bit, because basically this is the bit that's going to be, you know, attached to the top, and we want to be able to place it in whatever position we want to be, depending on whether we're in mid-flight. I mean, it's a lovely position, this one, of our little dove sitting and the wings up. But if you're hanging it or placing it on top of your tree, you might want it in that position, or you might want it so that the wings are out a bit more. So the pipe cleaner will enable you to do that. So it's this top bit that we're actually going to have it along. So just check, and in fact, mine's probably a little bit longer than it needs to be, but I'm going to bring it down into there anyway, so that I can always have that attached on the body anyway. Okay, so we need to attach it, and the way we're going to do that is we're going to get some loose wool, and we've got our needle, the light needle, the blue needle. Okay, and you're just going to very slightly fold it over. Okay, now obviously make sure when you do the other wing you do it in the opposite way. I know I keep saying that, but I am someone who, you know, spends hours doing something and then realizes I've got 2 right wings or 2 left wings. So I'm going to start here just by not necessarily curling that over, but just felting some wool over the side of it, okay, and up to that bit where it bends. Just felt, can you see that? I'm felting at the top and underneath it, and it's just going to help keep that in place. Okay, you can see where the felts come through the other side, but it just means that so that when you now go to fold that over, you've actually got a little bit more to do the felting in. Okay, whichever is easiest for you, because you're gonna now, once you've done that, once you've attached it, I mean, that, to be honest, that didn't take a lot, and just to do that all the way along is at least attached it, because that's all you need to do really at the moment, is make sure it's attached, because you're going to then add your splattering of wool. Now you don't need to go mad here, because all you're really doing is adding the texture, the feathery texture to the actual felt. So rather than having because basically you have your body. I'm still studying that rather strange beak that I put on. Anyway, you have your body, which is made up of wool, and what we don't want is to just have then 2 wings made of felt, which definitely look like different textures, and they are slightly different colours as well. You know, there are many different shades of white and cream, etc. So when you get to the next step, you're just going to line this over, but in the direction of the feathers. So, you know, the feathers are coming out and down, out and down. So that's the way I then add, and just very lightly, because this is very much just adding a top layer to the felt. Now I should really have my bit on here, because that will stop me from felting it into my mat. There we go. Because we don't want to felt it into the mat. There we go. Just going to make sure I still have my pipe cleaner on the. I like to keep the pipe cleaner on the underside, okay, and not on the top side. Okay, just add that bit down there. Okay, so I designed the dove with the use of the felt because it's a nice way to, you know, have complete control of that shape. You know, once you've actually got this layer of wool on both sides and giving you that texture, you know, however much you want or don't want, it's completely up to you. You can then, you know, if you want to, make an even more emphasis of these feathers. You know, you can cut them in a bit more if you want to. You could cut it in a bit and pull it up and overlap it. You can do whatever you want with it once it's actually made, and that's why I quite liked the idea of felt for that, because you absolutely have control of that. Now another way, if you're doing this maybe a second project, or you're doing it after Christmas where you've got plenty of time and you want to, you know, investigate different ways of doing the sort of feather look. Another option, instead of using felt, is to use pre-felt, okay, which is something very similar
to this, which if you don't know what pre-felt is, it's felt, but before it's gone through all of the processes to make it nice and solid like that. So all felt starts off in this sort of flimsy sheet, and it's either heat pressed or actual felted with needles, depending on which process it's been through, to make it into a solid piece of felt. So it's called pre-felt because basically it's before it's gone through many of the processes. There's probably only about a couple of the stages that it's gone through. Pre-felt. Anyway, so what's the advantage, Steph, of using pre-felt, you ask? Only that it's not as solid. So if you are trying for more of a feathery feel, now you can get pre-felt in different colours, but you're much better off, I think, getting it in a neutral colour and then using your own wool to dye it, as it were. I mean, you can still and even on this particular project with the felt, because as we know, no animal is completely white or, like the Arctic fox, which has got grey all over it. And quite often, if you want to actually distinguish lines, there's creams and all sorts. So if you want to distinguish the lines of the feathers, you can use the pastels, the crayons, makeup. You can use anything to help you get that effect if you want to. But yeah, so pre-felt is just another way of I would still use the pipe cleaner or a piece of wire that I was actually felt in place, so that you've got that movability. But it just gives you a bit more stretching ability, and adding things, it would be a lot fluffier and feathery. Just add that for a little bit of information. Let's just turn over the page here. I know I'm sort of a bit rambly here, but I'm just trying to give you different bits of information that you may or may not be ready for at this time. Okay, so once you've actually finished putting your featheriness on both sides, and as I say, the pipe cleaner is attached, you then need to make your tail in exactly the same way, and then you have the joy of actually placing them and felting them in place on the back. So obviously this piece has only just been started, but that extra piece that I have there, which I'm holding with the extra piece of the pipe cleaner, which comes down, which is actually quite nice because you can definitely hold that in place and decide whereabouts that's going to go, depending on whether I'm going to imitate our picture here with them flying up in the air, whether I'm going to be a bit lower, coming into land, as it were. You can make your decision. I mean, obviously, once it's in place, you can move that around. And I would have covered up the pipe cleaner a bit once I've actually put the layer over there. But yes, so you would then layer that on. And once I'd finished this bit, the tail, I would add that on as well. Now, I will say the tail is the one that I would perhaps add some either colouring, just to, accentuate those feathers out of the back, because the tail feathers are quite often they move about. I mean, you might even want to create some slits and layer them over if you want to make it a bit smaller, whilst when you get to actually arrange it and think, oh yeah, I think I could have done that a bit differently. You can always adapt it when you get there. So yeah, there you go. Hopefully I've not confused you. Hopefully I've given you some added pointers in how to go about the project. As ever, if you get to this point and you want some help, be it now during Christmas or after Christmas, if you decide to do the project later, then add your comments below, and either I or somebody else will come back and answer your questions. So there you go. Brilliant. Look forward very much to seeing your makes. And of course, after Christmas, it may not be a dove. It may be another bird that you decide to do, having learned how to do wings or been inspired by this project, hopefully. Okay, so Happy felting and look forward to seeing your makes. Well, hello and welcome to day 24. Well, I've got my envelope. Well, certainly it's been amazing for me this year, the Advent, and it seems to have flown by. But anyway, we are here. We are at envelope 24, which is a small one, which I'm guessing we're all busy and getting ourselves ready for the big day. So that's probably just as well. So, shall we open it up? Well, first of all, before I open it up, perhaps we'll just go to page 65, the last one now, and we've got a mini little owl. And here we go. Here's our mini little owl. If you haven't had a chance to do the big owl, because I know it was a big project, perhaps you have a little chance to do a little owl just to get you by through Christmas, because it wouldn't be the same without an owl. But as you can see, I've used different colours for this one, and in fact it was an image that I saw of many different owls of all different colours, and I thought, we could go wild, couldn't we, with all the other extra little bits that we got left over. We could make owls of any shape or size or colour. But anyway, this particular one has been made with the oranges and the greens. So let's open up our little envelope. Let's go over to the overhead. There we go. Mini little owl, put you there. Bless. And I'll take those out. I'll also, my little felted ball. Get him out as well. And my lovely tracing paper, which I very much like to use. Another ho 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 for the envelope. Right, okay, so we've got our little felted ball, brilliant. We've got that fabulous green lichen, that's what it's called. I love this, such a lovely green. Well, I sort of be quite happy wearing that green, actually, it's lovely. And the orange, in fact I am kind of wearing the orange, aren't I? And the white. Okay, so I don't think I need to give you an awful lot of steering in this. I think the world is your oyster, or the world is your owl, I should say. Because basically you're going to take your little ball and you're going to make him a bit bigger. Excuse me, a bit longer, not necessarily wider, with the white. So add a bit bottom top. And then it's about what colours you want to do. So in my case, I used the green as the main body colour, and then orange for his little wings, orange for his little beak, and these are little tufts of ears. So rather than actually having to felt ears, it really is just about grabbing some tufts and adding them, and big orange eyes, which you've got in your pack. And on this occasion, I've sort of left them, as you can see, quite protruding, because owl's eyes are a bit out there, aren't they? So yes, I'm looking forward to hanging him, although, and I look at my little lights, my little circle of lights up there, they're actually quite full. So I might have to hang him. In fact, I might hang him from one of the ones here. I think I've got the little robin there, and I might hang him from one of those just to give him his little spot, because I do like those. And I will just say, you can just about see over my shoulder here. Can you see my other owl? I've got him in the little wreath. Shall I show you that? As it's the last day, I can show a few other decorations, can't I? Here we go. Ooh. Let him fall out, bless him. Let's tidy him up a bit. Come on, pull yourself together. Perhaps I should go back over to the main camera so that you can see him. There we go. His little hat coming off. Go on, Steph, pull yourself together. There you go. I've sort of decided that he would fit rather nicely into my wreath, and I've decided I am going to keep him out all year, and after Christmas I should take his little hat off, and I shall turn him into spring. So for spring I'm thinking I might put some, and I think Joe's actually got a kit for some of those pink lovely spring blossoms, is what I'm thinking, to go round and make it very spring-like. Anyway, yeah, so I thought he looked quite splendid. I haven't fixed him yet into the ring, hence why I'm holding him so he doesn't fall over. But I think I'm going to fix him in and then change him for the seasons. And then I will have, just pop him there, you see? Woo, there he is, yeah. I can have then an owl for all seasons. There you go. But yeah, so any tips for today's little owl? I don't think so. I think it's just, you've learned everything over the last 24 days with regards to, you know, how to felt, how not to felt, to go your own way, and you've all done splendidly. So I think it's just a case of go wild. Do your thing, and finish off if you haven't completed all the tasks or the projects leading up. Hopefully in the new year you'll have a good opportunity to come back and watch the videos from everybody and give you the tips that you need. And of course we're all still here in the group to help out, but really loved looking at all the projects, and no doubt we'll see some more today, and perhaps even after Christmas when you're settling down after the family have disappeared and having a bit of craft to yourself, and we'll be sharing again. So I shall just say, as I have every day, happy felting.